Luck is the residue of design. That's a quote from Branch Rickey. He was the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, the LA Dodgers last century. And I've always loved that quote because it explains why sometimes the ball seems to bounce for the other team. Maybe there's a way that they design a team, the way the general manager works with the coaches, the way the coaches pick their staff, the way the coaches work with the players, the mindset they have. There's just something there. Luck is the residue of design. I think there's several things you can design that some people just put off as luck or they were born that way. I don't have that. I think there's ways that you can design things, and I think one of those things you can design is more creativity. Hi, I'm Doug Thomas. I'm a senior production manager at Microsoft on a video and podcast team. And before that, I did content and I had to be creative a lot. And I realized pretty soon that I couldn't rely on just the eureka moment. You know, that moment where you suddenly get something that you've been working on and, maybe hours or days or weeks, and then suddenly you're taking a shower or driving, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's it, I got it. And you find your solution. Now, I think everyone has the same amount of eureka moments. I think some people act on them more often than others. But I couldn't rely on that. I had to be regular in my creativity. I had Tuesday webinars. I had videos that were due on schedule. So I had to be more creative more often. And so I did some studying about that, and I wanted to share some things with you that I think work well. I have to practice what I preach now because I'm a manager of 5 creative folks, and I want to make them sure that they're as creative as possible. So let's start here. Let's start with a book by Gordon MacKenzie with a great title, Orbiting the Giant Hairball. MacKenzie plots out creativity on a line, and he says that in every creative endeavor, there is measurable evidence of creativity. For an artist, it's a painting. For the video team, it's that final video we make. What is it for your team? Is it content? Is it code? Whatever. There is a measurable evidence of that creativity. But MacKenzie says the bulk of that time is invisible creative activity. You can't really measure it. Now, I'm a guy who likes a good analogy, and MacKenzie has a really good one here. Yeah, cows. We take cows to the dairy and we measure their milk precisely. That's their measurable evidence of creativity. I mean, MacKenzie says, look, it's a miracle. They eat grass and it turns into milk, and we don't even think about it. Because how does the cow make the milk? They go to pasture. They're sitting there walking around. I mean, we even drive by and we put down the window and say, moo to the cow. We don't even realize. MacKenzie says, there's a creative beast at work. Because you can't take a cow to the dairy 24/7 and expect to get milk. They're going to go dry. The same is true with your creative teams. If they're just working all the time, doing the stuff, they're not going to have any time to think about things and ponder them and work on them to be more creative. Time and space is the key here. You have to give time and space. Here's another way to look at it. John Cleese, most people know from Monty Python. He's a comedian, author, a genius in my opinion. And he put it this way. He said, if you get in the right mood, then your mode of thinking will be much more creative. But if you're just racing about all day, ticking things off a list, making phone calls, checking your watch, generally keeping all the balls in the air, you're not going to have any creative ideas. Now, I've had jobs. I've had good jobs where my job was to keep the balls in the air. I mean, in management, that's kind of what it is in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that's a bad job, but I'm saying if you're managing a creative team, they can't be doing all that stuff. Keeping all the balls in the air, going to meetings maybe they don't have to go to, doing some busy work just because they need to do it. They need time and space. Another genius, in my opinion, filmmaker David Lynch put it this way. He said, ideas are like fish. You don't make the fish, you catch the fish. You can't make creativity. I think you have to catch it. I think you have to go to pasture. I think you have to give time and space. I mean, when I read that, I realized my job as a creative was was to catch as many fish as possible. And I got deep into this. I read stuff about brain science, and I got rid of my headphones for a while, and I did some deep thinking things. A lot of things there that your team can get into. But talk to them. What do they need? Now, some people may just need time at the keyboard. Writers do that a lot. They just need to pound it out. Other folks need other things. When I was doing Tuesday webinars, I let my manager know on Mondays, I'm not going to be in the office a lot. I'm going to be walking around, because that's how I generated my ideas. That's how I got better at it. I was just sitting there walking and talking and working through things. So talk to your crew, see what they can do, how you can manage them better to be creative. Now, it's a little tougher in this day and age to think about management and the view that we have of management. A lot of view of management's this right now, right? A lot of remote work. Well, remote work's kind of only like this. Hybrid work, we have a lot more of this. I mean, every time I see the 4-up like this, I just think I'm playing some version of Mario Kart. I just have to concentrate on my square. But one of the things that I've worked on over the last couple of years is dealing with this hybrid environment. And these are things that any team can use, not just creative teams. One of the things I read, well, it's when things juxtaposition, when I read something or hear something that I really like doing. And this is when people were starting to come back to the office, and American business was thinking, oh, this is great. More people are coming there. They're rediscovering the office. And then there was another group saying, wait a minute, why do we need the office? We've been working without it for so long. And then other people said, well, it's for those opportunities in hallways and in break rooms to talk about things, to have those magical moments of conversation. And the juxtaposition of that is, well, if that's so important, why do we leave it to chance? So I planned an activity. I planned the water cooler. It's a meeting that's 11 o'clock on every Wednesday. We get together. Now, if you're being very creative and doing stuff, do not come. It's a totally optional meeting. And it might have themes. You can deal with creativity or whatever. You can talk about certain ideas. Or a lot of times it's just social time for us to talk about movies, things recommendations of things to watch, something in the zeitgeist, photography, vacations. Sometimes we have guests we bring on, someone that we want to talk to a little deeper, or they want to talk to a video podcast team about what we do. The thing is, it just gets conversations going. It's those accidental conversations. It's just a little more planned. And sometimes I've come out of those meetings thinking about things differently, and that's what that water cooler meeting is about. One of my favorite things to do when I was managing years ago was just walking by somebody's office or cubicle, and they said, hey, do you have a minute? And they'd have an idea or something they wanted to talk about. That's a great way of having those communications. And again, tougher in this hybrid or remote environment. So I plan my drop-bys. I have a team of 5, and let's say I do one-on-ones one week. The week that I don't have those one-on-ones, I'll put something on the calendar for drop-bys. I want to make sure I'm doing nothing else. I'm just concentrating on that. And I'll send all 5 of them. Now, if you have a larger team, you'll want to do this in waves. But I send them all at the same time, the same message, something like, hi, it's Doug. I'm just doing my virtual drop-in. Is there anything I can help you with? Any questions that you have? And then I'll wait for a response. Now, some of them aren't going to get the response right away. They're doing other things, or they're not in yet, or something like that. But I'll get some responses, and I can work with 2 or 3 folks in real time about dealing with their stuff. And if we need to go a little deeper, if it quiets down, I can say, hey, I can give you a phone call in a couple minutes, and we work on there. It's just a great way to try to get those ideas going more if they need it. Now, I did have to have the conversation with a couple folks that this is not me playing Big Brother by any means. I literally mean what I say. Is there anything I can help you with? And if there isn't, give me a thumbs up, say, nope, I'm all good, and I'm not going to think anything of it. Really good conversation to have. But those kind of drop-ins from time to time is really good because, well, if there's anything, to me, the best thing that happened in the pandemic for business is it just seemingly that everyone cared for each other a lot more. I mean, a friend of mine said, yeah, look, we're all in different boats, but we were all in the same storm during that time. And a lot of people had very, very stormy waters. And we reached out more. We talked about them. How are you feeling? We talked about mental health. We talked about their families. I mean, often their families were right behind them when people were working from home. And I think we're doing more of that now a couple years later as people are back in the offices and things are going back to whatever normal is. I mean, the real test will be 10 years from now if we still care about each other the same way we do now. I mean, 10 years before the pandemic, I don't think that was happening as much. I coached kids soccer years ago. I loved it, especially little kids. I would even go back after my kids got older to coach 6-year-olds. One of the things I noticed early on, though, with that group was some kids were really afraid of taking a shot on the goal. And I talked to them, and they were afraid. They thought they might look silly. They knew there were other people on the team who much better than them. And they would just get them the ball. And now, I know this isn't how the game is played, but for 6-year-olds, this is what I said. I brought them in and I said, look, the point of soccer is to take shots on goal. The more shots on goal you take, the more goals you make. The more goals you make, the better chance you have of winning. The point of soccer isn't just running up and down the field all day. I think the same thing is true with business. I think you can have a decent career running up and down the field all day. I just don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about taking shots on goal. I think it's about taking risks and trying to do it as often as you can, because that's where the excitement is. That's where things change and things happen. And yeah, you score goals and sometimes you miss by a country mile. But I think you have to keep doing it, because also when you take shots on goal, strange things happen. Balls bounce off goalposts, off goalies' gloves, off knees that bounce around. Goals are scored in weird ways. In some ways, I'm living proof of doing that and having a different career because I took shots on goal and balls bounced in weird ways. As a manager, your job is to be a coach on the sideline. Now, do not be yelling at them the entire game, telling them what to do. Do not do that in soccer. Do not do that in business. But encourage them. See what they need to take more shots on goal and have those strange things happen and those goals scored, and then try it again and again. And yeah, after something succeeds, some people may look at that and think, wow, they're really great, or wow, I don't have what they have, or wow, they were just lucky. And maybe you were lucky, or maybe it's just a little bit of your design. Thank you.